So we're redoing the way that we do reviews and really trying to bring more information to you guys. And the best way for us to do that is to meet with the product managers. And instead of us just saying, what we think changed and why, let's get it straight from the horse's mouth. And for part one of this video, we're joined by the people behind making Nordica skis happen, Flo and Ethan Korpi. And in part two of this video, you'll see us do our full unbiased review. But part one, let's dive into what changed with all the new Nordica skis for 2025 and why. So we have new Nordica skis coming out this fall. Every Nordica Enforcer is new. Every Santa Ana is new. Have all of them changed in 1 year before?
No, this is actually the first year that we've ever done it. I mean, when we originally started with the Enforcer series, it was one ski. Same with Santa Ana. It was the Enforcer in Santa Ana. Then we named it the Enforcer 100 because in year two, came out with the 93, and kind of on we went, dropping and developing a new model until the collection was complete. We've redone some of the models within that family before, maybe 2 in a year at a time. Was the max that we've done, but this year, all the Enforcers and Santa Anas are new, so something we've never done before.
So, you're changing skis, and what was wrong, or what did you want to improve on from the previous generation of Enforcer? Where did the previous Enforcers or Santa Anas fall short in your guys' eyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's multiple parts to that. One, it was we wanted to kind of clean up the shape and the consistency of the whole story, right? Because we had a huge difference between what we had as what we called our Enforcer Freeze, and then also what we considered our traditional or all-mount Enforcers. The 99, or excuse me, the 100, which is now the 99, the 94, and the 88. So those were much more traditional, and then you had this big separation between free, and we wanted to truly unify that. So it wasn't necessarily improving so much at the individual model, we thought this ski, wasn't as good as it could have been. We wanted to truly unify that collection and bring some attributes into some skis that we really loved in some of the other Enforcers into some of the other skis in the line.
Yep. And what ski, so you got to start somewhere in the Enforcer line. What was the first Enforcer of this new collection that you started with first? I don't even know if you do start with one first, but how do you even start this process of I'm launching a new collection? How does that work? When does that even begin?
That's a question you have to answer.
Usually it starts basically 2 years before we really launch the product into the market. That's more or less the timeline. With the importance of this category and this group of skis, we took our time. We actually started with the 93 and 99 proto process of creating the new shapes because we clearly knew where we wanted to go, but we had to start somewhere. So it was basically the first time that we did more than one prototype for each single model. So in the end, it took us, I would say, in the proto phase, 6 months, 7 months till we finalized and confirmed, let's say, the side cuts of the main sizes of these 4 models. Then we spent some time on working on different constructions and till we ended up in a phase where we felt confident to share, let's say, the first results with some stakeholders in the markets. And from there, you develop the sizes and you go to the details. And usually we are ready 6 months before we enter the market.
So when you're talking about 6 months to develop a prototype, so we're talking about a mold, and then after that you started messing with construction.
I mean, this is a rolling process. You start with a CAD drawing, you go into a mold, you kind of like or you don't like. You need to find out, okay, is it more the construction, is it the side cut? it's kind of a lot of experience which goes into those thoughts. But I'd say this 6 months is covering all the 4 different models, including also the decision on how is the construction working, what are we doing with the lady side of those skis, because in the end, if you start this project, you always have to think also, what about the women constructions, but you still start on the same sizing like with the unisex molds, because in the end, if we start developing a construction, and also those ladies who are testing with us, they are used to ski with those longer sizes, because you cannot start, let's say, on a 186 on men's, and then you start on a 163, which would be a main size for women. So this is what I mean with this product process. It's more or less covering everything in this 6 months.
And what was the first ski that was done in your eyes? Like, what was is it easy to, like, I guess I shouldn't say it's easy, but like, is there a ski that you just like, it was a home run, like more quickly? Like you just kind of nailed it in this collection?
Yeah, it was the 99.
99.
Yeah, that was, immediate.
And what was that?
Based on the final mold, and after the decision where the the construction is going, I would confirm this. Yeah. But it was like 99, 94. These 2 were the first ones, which were like pretty good out of the first shot.
And the reason why Flo said it like that was we were really truly tinkering with the construction. We weren't just like, okay, we know exactly how to build these things. Like, we've stamped out Enforcers for the last 10 years. Let's just keep doing what we're doing because we're awesome. Right. That's never our approach when we build anything. You know, we're truly searching to push ourselves, and we were trying to find a ski to build it with not 2 sheets of metal. We're like, let's not build an Enforcer with 2 sheets of metal. Like, we've done that. Let's explore any other way to do it. And so there was some times where, even though we had the shape dialed, we felt like, but we just weren't quite there with the construction, and we had to continue to push ourselves to find the right construction. So there was a couple of days on snow where we really had to take a clear path on the road with where we wanted to go with the skis.
That's a good point. So you bring up build Enforcers without 2 sheets of metal. I mean, that's kind of been what an Enforcer was, right? Since day one. Yes. So taking metal out of the ski, like, what's somebody going to feel on this new 2025 Enforcer versus previous versions of Enforcers that do still have those 2 full sheets of metal?
So we still do have 2 sheets of metal in the constructions, but what we actually did is we actually kind of just tucked the metal in about 2 millimeters, the full running length of the ski, just to take out just a little bit of that metal feel. And then it kind of compensate for, anytime you take metal out of ski, people like it because it's smooth, it's comfortable, it's confident, you feel stable. We put a little, what we call our pulse core technology in there, which is in a rubber elastomer in there to help just keep that feeling intact. People love that, again, smooth, confident feeling that Enforcer gives you, and we didn't want to take that away. Yeah. So that's how we compensated for it.
And I think that's a misconception that we hear a lot about skis with metal. Like a lot of people are still stuck on this. Metal makes the ski stiff, And what you just said, none of those you mentioned it making the ski more stiff. You mentioned it making it more smooth, more damp, more connected to the snow. What's the approach there versus the old skis?
I have to add one thing, which is a little bit how I see it different. For me, metal makes the ski more rigid in terms of the torsional resistance. And this has nothing to do with the stiffness of a ski. The stiffness of a ski is just coming from the wood core curve, how you mill it, and then also how you press the skis. This is also a little bit of a underestimated part of the whole process. The reason why we took out a little bit of the metal on the lower layer of the metal was that we had the goal that this new generation of Enforcers should fit to a bigger group of skiers, not just, let's say, the high end last 5% of skiers really having fun, and all the rest is a little bit, in some cases, having a little bit too much ski on their feet. Yeah. So we wanted to open this group of people who really have fun with those skis, but at the same time not really giving up on the high-end performance, and in the end we are still trying to build skis for ourselves in a certain way, and so we should have fun, but it should be a big audience also really getting the perfect ski. So this was like our way to take out a little bit of aggressiveness, and this is also what Ethan described before with this pulse core, adding a little more dampening and easiness to those skis. Aside all the details, we took care about the side cut of the skis. Those were the two ways how to reach this goal, I would say.
I mean, like one thing that was very noticeable when we got on the prototypes with you guys a couple years ago in Deer Valley, and then skiing on them again this year, is, I think, we talk about first fit in boots all the time, like that first impression you get. But I think like that first impression that so many skiers get, it's really like the first turn or two right off the chairlift. Like you can kind of have an idea if this is going to initiate easily. And the difference from the new Enforcers to the old ones, they're so much friendlier at low speeds. And then once it was time to give it more gas, really step on them, we didn't lose any of that. And you guys fully nailed like expanding the audience. So if that was the goal, you did it. Were there any prototypes that you guys made where you went a little too far and you lost some of the top end?
Oh, yes.
And then in the end, this was what Ethan described before when we were, we thought, how far can we go? Like opening up and lower, let's say, the performance. And we, with the first round, we totally failed. I mean, we skied those skis in Sölden on the glacier. I think it was in October.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, this was the third day when the guys were visiting us on those skis, and I already knew that this is this is done. But we kind of had the thoughts, we had the discussions to be sure where we want to go, and it took us, let's say, 3 weeks to come up with 2 new directions, which we then skied in Vail, I think, which was
end
the
of
beginning
November.
of December, end of November.
So you guys are really, you're prototyping the skis all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Validating them, yeah.
Absolutely.
Validating,
I
yeah.
mean, there is a big difference if you ski the skis in Utah like we did last March,
Yeah,
was
right.
it? February,
Yeah, 2 Februarys.
or if you ski them in our spring conditions on our glaciers. I mean, this is a total different behavior of the skis. I mean, with the experience, we kind of know how we need to deal with those, also different impressions or feelings, but it's definitely a difference, yeah.
I mean, I really feel like that is part of the reason why the Enforcer and Santa Ana line has been so successful is, I mean, they perform so well in so many different conditions, and that's, agreed upon, all over the place. And, that has to be a result of just the validating that you guys are doing, here in the east, just up the road, wherever that could be in Vermont or New Hampshire,
Right.
west, the glacier. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, if I take Vail as an example in these late November conditions, I don't know if you have the same expression. We call it the hero snow because you feel like the best skier in the world.
Yeah.
The next day you take the same ski with the same tuning and you go, I don't know, in Austria where we usually test, Basturen, could be the worst day of your life, I mean, this is usually if Ethan is coming to Europe, he's I mean, we all know how jet lag is feeling. And there are some conditions where he is starting to really cry around because the skis are not working. And then like, okay, you're coming from Utah. It's a different game, You have to be a different skier in Europe. And then it takes him 1-2 days and he's getting back on track. No. Just joking. Grass growing.
Yeah. Flo always says, I can hear the grass grow. Because I'm blaming the skis, not my skiing. He's like, yeah, you hear the grass grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just hypersensitive. That's all. He doesn't get it.
And how do you? I mean, you bring up a good point. Conditions wise, can vary so much. Something we've noticed a lot over the last few years, especially through multiple factory tours. The finishing of the products. I think that's another thing that often gets overlooked. Definitely by an end consumer who's buying a ski off the wall. And taking the wrapper off and they're getting mounted. And again, maybe they're skiing in Vermont, maybe they're skiing in Solden, maybe they're skiing early season in Colorado, California. All those are very different conditions. You know, how do you guys come up with, you know, what is the best factory tune for these things to, you know, average all of those out? Because honestly, they come out of the factory very well tuned. So what's the process behind that? I mean, obviously, probably part of it is that you're testing these all over the world, you know.
I mean, if I can answer from my perspective, you know, because you might have a different view on that, but what we are definitely trying, we know that we have a quite stable process in our finishing and tuning line. And in the end, we are trying to adjust the skis that we know it would fit to our standard tuning, because we obviously can only deliver with one tuning.
Right.
And then we definitely know that there are certain snow conditions where we need to take out a little bit of aggressivity, sorry for my English, by either detuning or working on the base bevel, but this we cannot really influence. So this is then related to the experience of shop owners, or even the end consumer on their own, or I don't know, ski instructors working in this environment. What we definitely can guarantee is that we usually don't have to tune more aggressive.
Yeah.
Because this is something not anyone could do on his own. So detuning, which would fit better to super dry, cold snow conditions, is something which can be done pretty easy. So we try to adjust the skis in a way that they should work, let's say, 85% plus.
Yeah.
And then having these extreme conditions, okay, then you need to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, you know, for us, obviously we test pretty much everything that we sell in the store, and that's part of us knowing, you know, hey, Nordica is coming out of the wrapper. You're validating the customer. You're seeing where they ski, or maybe they're going out west. Knowing what that ski feels like out of the wrapper is, just like you said, it's important to us to be able to let the consumer know, hey, maybe we should be tuning this first. Oh, you're taking these and you're immediately going out to Tahoe and they just got 6 feet of snow. Maybe it needs to be tuned a little bit differently, you know. So that's important for us. But I mean, specifically, George and I this year taking those out of the wrapper, and we were skiing hard, fast snow. But yeah, they were nice.
Ski really well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, a question I'm sure plenty of people watching this are going to have. So we went from Enforcer 88 to 89, and 100 to 99.
Yes.
94 stayed the same. 104 stayed the same. 1 millimeter. What's up?
So we're kind of obsessed with making things consistent and easy, and we just want them on 5 millimeters. And we started with the 104 because we liked 104, and then we just went 5 millimeters from there. And if you can't really feel the difference between 1 millimeter, if you can,
You're a Korpi.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
yeah.
You would say that.
Yeah, I can feel it. I don't know about anyone else. But no, that's really the logic. It was, we just wanted to be consistent. You only have to really remember one number, and then you just go from there. And we had the opportunity to be as consistent, and then also kind of gaining some market knowledge over the last few years of, you know, what are the things that matter, what don't, right? Like, you know, is the sizing more important here? If we have a 179 versus a 180, okay, what is the consumer, what is the shop looking for more? So it was more about optimizing that.
Well, and that was my next question,
right?
You know, because sizing changed as
Yes.
well. Like, and you and I have talked to death about, you know, size curves and all that, and burned a lot of beers talking over,
Yes.
you know, 153 versus 158 to 159, and you know that was a really awesome late night in Italy. Most people think you'd be talking about, who knows what we're talking about, ski sizing, but what was wrong with the old size curve to this one?
So there was nothing, I would say, kind of wrong with it, especially if you consider kind of where we were coming from with sizing just holistically as the industry. And I think probably the consumer group that got shortchanged the most was probably the women, right? Because of the longer sets, like we were running on 7 centimeters. And we went down to 6, which is, you know, that's pretty tight. And we just felt like there's that consolidation kind of in the middle, right? That gets optimized when you go. It's like, okay, the longer ones, like whatever, we have the 191 and then the 185. We were like, okay, cool. That sounds more, I would say, kind of achievable for the average normal human skier than a 186, which we used to have. And then, okay, boom, you go down to that next size, 179. Okay, that was working well for us before. Awesome. That's our number one size. Let's not mess with that one. And then on the women's side, you also pick up an additional size in there if you keep going down into your sizes.
Now,
And especially, I want to add this: if you take, okay, what is the average male skier using? He is definitely not looking for a 160 something ski, right? And this fourth size in the old size run was this 160 something, and now it's a 170 something, and it's definitely fitting better to the needs. And it's the same for the ladies. They kind of want something over 170, but not a 179.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is exactly where we tried to fine tune this whole story, and this was the chance now to do it with this big change and with this big investment. And in the end, it also speaks to the success of the project in the last years, that we were able to get this investment money to do it, because this is also about, I mean, you edit at least one total mold set per model, so this is adding up.
Yeah. and you touched on it a little bit earlier, but that's not normal. I mean, most manufacturers, most brands are taking an Enforcer collection and maybe they're doing 2 new skis out of the collection that year, and they'll do the other 2 the next year. Same with Santa Ana, same with whatever. So for you guys, you mentioned the investment. That's a huge investment.
So many models, so many sizes.
So many models, so many sizes, and all new. And I think, another misconception is, I mean, these are essentially, every size is built differently, correct?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and manufacturers to some extent used to do that, and some still do, but you guys are building each model, each size differently than the other sizes.
In an effort to make all the sizes ski the same.
Yes.
I mean, a 150 will never ski the same as a 190, but let's say the feeling and approach and how we try to do it is going in this direction. I want to go back to the first part of the question. At least I understood this. We took a decision. We could have easily done this as a 1 year and a second year. But we were feeling like the Enforcer and also the Santa Ana customer deserves somehow, if he wants to replace after all these years, and we know that we have people out there who bought 2 or 3 different models, different ways to it. I mean, we just wanted to give the 94 client the chance to get a new one, and at the same time the 104 should have the chance, and we didn't want to pick who is the most important or where do we start. It was a risk for us because in the end we gave up something we knew which was working, but we also kind of were confident that we can achieve the goal, and I think now, a year after confirming everything, we can say we were close to. No, we were doing quite okay. So.
He's a little bit more modest than I am. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
No, they're 100% the best enforcers. Yeah, they're unbelievable, and it's amazing how you guys outdid yourselves. I have another question about the prototyping process. So, what size do you start with?
185.
185 or 180. What is it now? 186?
185.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start with the 185.
Okay.
It's the size we like to ski on.
Yeah.
So that's.
And on the Santa Ana side?
185.
Yeah, but this is not in the collection, so.
Yeah.
Santa Ana is then usually the 167 or 72.
Yeah.
Would be the first size.
And again, is that based on tester validation? Who's validating the skis?
On the ladies' skis, so naming Santa Ana, it's a little bit of a practical. Okay, if we can confirm this side cut, then we can really confirm everything because we see that the concept and the idea is working. We obviously, in the first phase, we ski with ladies who are anyhow familiar and like to ski also on the longer skis, which means then the 185, once it goes down, it doesn't really matter because we have ladies who are, I mean, they could ski in the 162 and they can go up to 179. They don't really care. This is, and then once we spread it out to different people, we pick the right ladies for the right sizes.
Yeah.
In the end, it's
And construction differences between Enforcers and Santa Anas?
Yeah, we definitely are more lightweight on the ladies skis. There we have one layer of metal instead of two.
Yep.
This is this terrain-specific metal story where we really try to support the skis in the areas where we want to, but not adding this additional weight and keep the general skis easy enough for. We definitely think that ladies are a little lighter than men. So that doesn't mean they don't have power, but in the end, the weight is driving the construction, and that's why we are thinking that we are in a good direction, still having this kind of enough horsepower for really good skiers. Translating this story from Enforcer to Santa Ana.
And honestly, that was a big thing for us going into that meeting with you guys a couple of years ago in Deer Valley, skiing those prototypes. I mean, on the flight out, talking about, you know, how are you guys going to make this ski better? You know, it's obviously it's an iconic, you know, collection for you guys and just industry wide. And what is this, year 10?
This is the 10th.
This is the 10th year. So whether, you know, it's been validated through obviously sales, magazine tests, every channel you can think of. I assume it was very stressful for you guys to, you know, redo all of these skis.
It is. I mean, this is the most important launch Nordica has ever had as a ski brand.
Yeah.
You know, redoing Enforcer in Santa Ana. I mean, we were making skis before Enforcer really took off. We weren't really selling them to the volume that we were on the map as a major player within the ski industry. And Enforcer and Santa Ana brought us there, to be honest. And it's been, we've worked really hard to be able to get there. We've been really consistent. And, you know, it was a lot of work going into it. You know, again, developing all those sizes and all those molds, it's all definitely nerve-wracking. You're like, man, let's not screw this thing up.
Right.
Because it means so much to so many people, not from just us internally, but, you know, you guys are taking the risk and buying, you know, all the skis that you guys buy from us every single year. That's a financial risk for you and also the end consumer. They work hard for their money too. Yeah. You know, they're taking this out on their vacation. That's not just the cost of the ski, you know, it's the cost of the whole kit and caboodle. And we owe it to so many different people to nail it. And yeah, we were definitely nervous, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah. Like, I don't think we'll ever lose that. Oh man, like, how are we going to do this better? Because that kind of keeps us going a little bit.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty hard to outdo yourselves the next time.
Yeah,
we've got a couple of years now.
So what are your, if you can only pick one, what is your personal favorite Enforcer for 2024-25?
Where am I skiing?
Or is it you get one to take?
You get one.
You're taking it from Europe to New England to out west.
Okay, so it's one pair for the year.
Yeah.
I'm going the 99 and a 185.
Flo?
I'm in Europe, so I would pick the 94, to be honest. But hoping that I could get a pair of 104s.
And is there still a ski that lives above the 104?
No.
Okay.
No, top's out there.
Okay. That's where Unleashed comes in.
Exactly. That's where we have our Unleashed family. We have a 108, 114.
Yep.
And then coming for next year is something even wider.
Yep. So a little bit less nerve-wracking knowing that Unleashed could fill that position of what Enforcer Free was. A little bit softer, more playful, you know,
Correct.
More turned up tail skis. Knowing that now Unleashed has that covered, it probably was hopefully a little less stressful redoing that 104, knowing like, okay, that 104 customer used to ski a more playful twin tip type ski.
No, that didn't really make pressure. No, it was, I mean, the heat was on.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think the 104 is probably the most important ski in this category.
Really?
Yeah, because it's the widest one, and it's kind of the ski everyone is looking at. Because with the old 100, we kind of hit the market with something where we're trying to do a better ski than our competition.
Yeah.
With the 104, we kind of opened a new category, and we created fans for this plus 100 millimeter category. And then there was also this story of, okay, how can we translate this 104 feeling down on the narrow skis, creating this little free feeling also for 100 and below that waist width. So and kind of the whole new collection, at least internally, was charged on the 104 performance. So this is a pretty interesting development in this line, even knowing that we are selling, I don't know how many pairs of the 100 or now 99 and 94s.
Yeah.
The 104 is kind of the leading. How do you say it? It's like this image.
Yeah.
Product in this line. I don't know if you would agree, but I think the 104 has its own kind of identity in this line, and we try to build also this line from there in a certain way.
In quantity wise, are 99 and 94 pretty close now as far as
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we see one overtake the other 1 year and vice versa. 94 has kind of started to, I would say, migrate a little bit further away, just because I think the industry is now kind of retracting a little bit from everyone wanting everything so wide, and they're like, it's not so much of a contest of, how wide you can be.
Yep.
It's kind of come back a little bit, and we're just seeing that in the numbers as well too, and also just more people excited about 88 on the men's side more.
Yeah, we've definitely seen more 88s the last few years, and honestly, more people kind of coming back to maybe not as their primary ski, but wanting a carving ski as well as part of the quiver, So that's been interesting to see. But I mean that 90 to 100 millimeter, I mean that's a crowded space, So honestly, for you guys to have two really iconic skis in that category is pretty sweet.
Helps, yes.
Yeah.
Any other geeky stuff that people should know about what changed from, or even what's has there been a trend in the, all the generations of Enforcer or things we talked about skis capturing a little bit wider of an audience going from last year to this year. Has that kind of been the trend the whole time?
Yes, I would say with the Enforcer in particular. It's just we've tried to, again, continue to kind of capture more people as we've built it. The 100 original to the second 100 that we did, that was definitely something that, we tried to do. But, there was also other things that we were doing at that time. It wasn't just trying to make it easier. We were adjusting all of our rocker heights and depths at a scaled level, which is something that we took on with those projects that came from the success that we had with the original 193. We had the investment dollars at that point to go in and overhaul the way that we're building all of our shapes and rocker points with every flat ski that we made from then on, because we had the volume to be able to justify the investments. So that was the major step we made forward with this, with the kind of 2.0 version. And now as we went into the 3.0, it was a little bit more about the skier audience. So, to answer your question, yes, a little bit at the beginning in version 2, but for sure in version 3, that was more of a finer point.
Yeah. Also, not an easy feat to make a ski more accessible, but still have that top end power and performance that everybody's come to know and love about Enforcers. So, I think, again, George said you guys nailed it, which you did, but that's definitely a trend we've seen the last few years too. People wanting skis that are still powerful, but whether they're easier to initiate a turn or allow a wider audience to get on them. Because like you mentioned, when Enforcers first came out, it was your advanced expert all mountain ski, and I feel like now you can put a intermediate on this ski and their intermediate skier on this ski, and they're going to be able to progress and then eventually get to that top end performance. You know, I mean, that was
Totally.
That was kind of our worry going back to our conversation on the plane out there. You know, we're like, God, we hope they didn't dumb them down too much. We hope they didn't dumb them down too much. And then sure enough, a couple turns off the lift, he's like, I don't know, these are easy to turn. Did they go too far? And then
we were on Hero Snow.
Yeah. So that was Hero Snow. So no, kudos to you guys. That's not an easy thing to do. And I think a lot of companies are also moving in that direction and trying to widen that audience, especially in their, you know, their category that's most important. But it's not an easy thing to do to make that ski easy to ski and initiate a turn, but also have that stability, you know, that somebody wants at the top end.
Now I said this to you that day at Deer Valley. May have even said it when we were at Kitzsteinhorn. Yeah. But I'm not experienced enough to like maybe put it to words, or maybe it's a really difficult thing to put to words. But like when I was on the 104, I was like, yeah, dude, this is done. This is it. But like you guys have to make so many skis. How do you guys know as professionals in this, like, yeah, this is done, or is it just kind of like a feeling?
You just know. Yeah. It's 5 turns. I'm not joking. You know, when you've been on kind of, you know, ski 1, 2, and 3, and then, you know, I remember having this very specific experience with the original 104 that we had, and Flo and I went back, and this was actually not an easy ski to build originally. This is 4 or 5 rounds of prototypes, and then we got to the final one, and it was 5 turns, and he looked at me, and he was like, because he was on a different one, and I was like, he kind of looked at me like, okay, like, I don't know if I trust the new guy so much. But then we went down and we switched.
Yeah.
And same thing. He took 5 turns on it, and then we stopped at the knoll.
Yeah.
And yep.
And you're
done.
You're gonna split the audience there. I mean, George and I feel the same way about that. There's definitely testers that are like, you don't know, like you just don't know that quick. And I don't know. You
don't need to drink 30 Coors Lights.
Yeah.
To know if you like Coors Light. You know pretty quickly.
Thank you,
yes.
George.
You know what I mean?
I agree. And it's really similar with, and again, maybe not everybody can feel it, but with a bad tune versus a good tune, you know, as soon as you roll that over, you're like, oh God, this thing's railed.
So it's easy to judge a good ski, and it just takes 5 turns, but it's hard and way harder to find out what's wrong with the ski if you don't really like it. You know?
Yeah.
And this is where you need more runs. And I'm not saying bad skis, because in the end it's always kind of a plus minus 5% thing. We are not going from here to here once we are starting to really know what to do. But in the end, to really find out what's wrong if something is not right, this is what is way more time consuming and needs way more thought process on slope, and then even going back to the factory thinking what could be the reason, you know. And sometimes, especially if you change the shapes in the way we've done, the skis react completely different than previous projects. So in the end, when we were used to make the whole shovel a little softer, this might not fit to the new shape or side cut or shovel radius. So it's always changing, and you learn a lot through this whole process, I would say. But you always also have to think back of different projects in the past. Okay, what was the reason why this was working, and could this be the same answer here? But I would again say that if the ski is working, it's an easy one. But if things are not right, then it could be a lot of things, you know, including then you're talking tuning, you know.
Yeah.
Is the tuning fitting, matching to the conditions we are skiing on?
Right.
Is it working with this construction? Where's the mistake, you know? And this is sometimes the harder part there.
Yeah.
Is it harder to nail the shape, or is it harder to nail the construction, if that's a fair question? Which is the harder one to figure out?
I think the shape, personally, but he's Mr. Shape, so and I feel the grass grow or hear the grass grow. So construction for me is easy. No, in all seriousness, I mean, I think the shape is honestly, it's a challenging thing, and it also depends on your target. I mean, we could draw on a napkin right here, an incredible powder ski that we know that would be great, and I'm not talking about a shape like that. And also with a carving ski, we could do the same thing, and within reason it's going to be a great carving ski, but that's a one-dimensional product. But when we start to go talk about these all-mountain shapes that we all love, these legacy products that we spend so much time discussing and fetting over, that, you know, those are I feel like the shape is the most challenging part to it. Plus, you can change constructions much more readily than shapes, because once you cut that thing behind you, you know, that's a lot of money. But changing the recipe of what goes in there is far less expensive and time consuming.
So 10 years of Enforcers, I'm guessing it probably wasn't this newest collection, but what was the most prototypes you guys had to go through to get a final ski throughout the years?
It was this collection.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I mean, all the rest was... How should I describe this? I mean, the first Enforcer was a couple of long nights and thoughts of 3-4 people about where we want to go. And we kind of hit the lucky punch with the first prototype working perfectly.
Yeah.
This was the truth. Then going into the 93, it was kind of we make it narrower and we go there. So it was a pretty easy one. But we learned a lot for the future developments, because we saw immediately that this was not the perfect answer how to create the 93, right? Okay. So then going on this journey with the 110, we also had a reference from an older ski in our collection, which was the Patron, which we tried to improve. So also there we didn't have a lot of proto rounds. And from there it was always just developing from something existing. And the step we've done here now was first, as we described before, it was super important. So we shouldn't make any mistake. And it was basically the first time that we really took every single ski into a proto round.
Okay.
Also from a mold perspective. In some cases, we just, went into a final mold and said, okay, if it is not working, we throw it away and make another one. But we were pretty sure that we don't need to throw them away.
Yeah.
Here, we were cautious and we made some protos.
And throwing a mold away is a very expensive mistake.
If you throw away a final mold, it's more or less double the cost of a proto. So yes, it's some money. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, because I feel like some of the brands and product managers we've talked to and asked that question to, some of them, whether it's luck or experience, have to go through very few prototypes. I mean, we've heard from one brand that they went through over 100
it's crazy.
Prototypes for a ski, which seems like
they need to have a big team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's big company. But yeah, and George,
were they bragging about that?
Yeah, they kind of were.
They kind of were, but George and I walked away and we're like, I tell you what, you would figure after like maybe 10, you're like, this product just isn't going to work. Like, let's pull the plug on this. Like, to go through 100 prototypes seems insane, but that's interesting. I figured, I guess I should have put that together. The stress around making sure that these were correct.
But there is a big difference. What would you call as a prototype? Because if you add up everything what we've done, which is also kind of a proto phase, it's including every single size of every single model / waist width. So it's adding up. It's just, what do you count as a prototype?
Yep.
For me, prototyping is done once we define a final mold in a first size and we define a construction. The rest is adjustment.
Yep.
And it's called adjustment skis, which means we kind of choose the right flex pattern. We kind of fine tune every single size, but in reality, those are still prototype skis, because they are not making it to a warehouse. They don't have a graphic, so it's a little bit how and what you count as a prototype.
Got it.
I think this is important to differentiate. So in the end, if you add up all the different things here, it would also be 100.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it was still a bad ski after all that, so something went wrong.
We'll tell you which one it was after we end here.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, guys, thanks for the time. I think this was great, and this is the first review style we've done this way, but I think it's going to be pretty cool for everybody watching and listening. Thanks for the time.
Yeah.